Yes, and there we are again with a new episode of our podcast Dance Jams. Today we are going to talk about is straight and curved. Maybe a little bit a strange title, but it is about geometric and organic movements in dance. And maybe it's more than movements alone. But let's ask my good friend Ton Greten, and he is the expert after all, into the podcast. Ton, are you there?
I'm there, Sean. So, again, a new episode in season two, number two, podcast number two. Yes, that's fantastic.
Yeah, we are more than podcast number two, but it is the second season, right? Is straight, and curved, or in other words, in gem words, geometric and organic. And so that's. I thought we should talk about that. It's one of the things that we use a lot in Gem, but a lot of people might think, "What are we going to do mathematics now?"
Yes, yes. That's the most assumed geometric organic. Why this in dancing? Why is this in dancing? I don't understand this not. And then I say, direct lines and indirect lines. Okay, yes.
Yeah.
But we call it geometric and organic. And we have for us too, a good reason for that one, because good is subjective, but there is a reason for it.
Yeah.
And we try to explain in 1 hour time where we're going to, why it's so necessary in our dancing and why it's so important.
Oh,
So, Sean, I asked you in the Dutch podcast,
yeah.
and you was a little bit surprised that I asked to you, where is geometric coming from?
Yeah, but I had an answer. Huh?
Yeah, you
I
had the
had an
answer.
answer.
I know.
I had an answer.
Flabbergasted.
Yeah,
You had it
I had an
totally.
answer.
Super,
Yes,
Sean.
geometric, right? There's two, split in two words actually. Geo, which comes from the word earth, and
Mhm.
metric is a little bit easier to understand. Come from like the metric system or to measure things, right? That's where the word geometric is coming from. And of course, in mathematics, we have the subject geometry, which is all about angles and lines and clear circles and all that kind of stuff. Geometry, right? So, yeah, that's where we were last time. Most of the time, actually, I always do my homework, Tom, but you surprised me with this little question, which was
Yeah.
funny.
And organic, what came that from?
Organic has something to do more with nature.
Yeah.
It is, and if we bring it then immediately to then it is then we see more curved, more organic forms in nature. The deeper
Yeah.
meaning, because it's coming from a Greek word,
Yeah. Greek
organic
gas.
has something to do with relationships between, and that could, yeah, it's a little bit less straight as it is, but we started to use it more organic. You see it now also in the food industry, right? Something that is untainted. Organic is untainted food with chemicals. We call that organic food. But in shapes and forms, in Gem we like to speak of forms instead of only of shapes. Then we say, in this case, I can use it more natural forms are organic.
Geometric,
Hmm.
to come to the very basic or very short, it's straight mostly. It's very mechanically. It's how you said that
Yeah.
in angles. Yes, in angles. And it's very structured mostly. And organic is totally the opposite from it. And it's very natural. Na- Very you can forget because it's natural, often also asymmetric. It's round, curved, and it's flowing. And everything what grows is organic, but everything what a human make, it's geometric mostly. And we can see this on our trees. Sometimes we make the trees square, or our plants on the sideway. we make them very straight in one line. Then the plant is and the tree is organic, but we human being make it very straight. That's one example of it.
Yeah, yeah. Organic is very irregular and fluid. A lot of
Yeah,
curve, very unpredictable. The forms is what you said last time. Geometric is more predictable.
yeah.
And dear listeners, what Ton and I would like to say, there's we're not talking about what's right and wrong. Both have a function in dance and in the world. It's great. We just want to give you the distinction. And when you can see the distinction, you probably also can mimic the distinction, and then you can actually make your choices in the movements that you make if you want to do so. That's it. It's not like we like geometric more than organic.
No. We are born actually in a world where everything is symmetric and geometric. Because all what the human being built in buildings, in everything what we do with the housing, it's based on symmetry and on geometric, or better say, geometric symmetry. That's how our environment formed us. And this is how we think also. And this is quite weird because I didn't also not discover asymmetry and organic because many years for me it was geometry and symmetry. And when it was out of that box, it was strange for me, Sean. But during the time, I discovered how important that organic is in our dancing. Because actually, our dancing, when we learn to dance, it's totally geometric. All the rules are geometric. It's so mechanically everything that we sometimes lose our organic, our instinct, our intuition, and then we follow the rules of it. That's quite strange not to see that you have also an opposite.
Yeah. I think, and I didn't research it, but it's just by the books that I read about the styles, different styles of dancing. So we have, for instance, classical ballet on one side, maybe the ballroom styles on the same side, and it's not a small thing to try to describe movements, and it's easier to describe when you can say you make an exact 1/8 of a turn. You make a straight line from here to there. We facing the wall. So it's easier to do that. And that started to grow more and more. So people start to think more geometric. And hence the movement became more and more geometric. And in ballet, that's a hundred of year development. I can almost know by certainty that it didn't start there. The same thing with ballroom dancing. It started from social dancing. And social dancing just happened in a bar and we grab a person and we dance together. There is nothing geometrical in there. That's all very organic. And but then someone started to describe it and make it more clear and therefore and came to this pathway. Now, I have a lot of respect for people who try to do that and maybe unintentionally they went maybe to my taste a little bit too far in one direction. What do you
Yes,
think, Ton?
I totally agree, Sean, because we have a Latin book and they put all the feet in it, what you said, in directions, and even the count one,
Oh
two,
yeah,
3, 4, or
yeah,
1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Even that is geometric. So that this says nothing about, or it says anything about musicality. No, because musicality is much more than counting. So it's on the beat with the counting. Also important if you
absolutely.
never felt it before, but it's not only with the head, everything. It's also with the heart, what you need. And then yes, that's the beauty of it. So when you have in the music tracks like a piano, like a voice, a violin, like a drum, like a wind, and you take one of these tracks and you try that the body and the mind and everything what you perceive, that you let yourself lead through that music, through what you hear, what you perceive, then it's totally different than when we dance on one and two and three and four, five, six, seven, eight. Also important maybe for groups in competition to make it very, we say symmetric, equal.
Yeah, equal.
Everything looks the same. And this takes a lot of effort and a lot of perceiving how exactly everything have to go from A to B and on which count, in which body part from A to B in a straight line. That's really impressive,
Oh yeah.
but that
Mm.
it's not the only way.
It's not the only way. And here to musicality, Ton, you and I often make the distinction between dancing on the timing. You hear that all the time, eh? You need to dance on the timing. Then you force someone to dance exactly on one, two, three. If we talk about dancing in the music, or with the music, you already get a different feeling, right? On the
Yes,
timing, you only force person to look at the counts, which becomes very geometrical and
yes,
symmetrical. And
yes.
so, in the
When,
words that we use, we sometimes, without knowing it, already force someone in a certain direction.
Mhm.
That's how you and I typically approach that when we talk about
Yes,
geometry in music.
yeah. If you follow the piano, then actually it's like a screensaver on your computer screen. There comes a sound and the screen will pull out exactly on the sound. And that's the timing. So you perceive that sound through the waves in your ear to your brain, to your body, and you transform that into a certain movement. If you don't count, then it gets for me more organic. If you get in count, you get more geometric. And both you need. It's not one or the other.
Yeah,
It's both what you need to complement
absolutely.
it to each other. And of course, you can do one style geometric a little bit more. Sometimes you see this in the arms. Whole groups do the same arms, very straight, very forward. They make squares. They try to make circles. They try to make letters like a X or stairs, very square triangles, etc. But it's also the art to break that. And you can stay in that style, of course, that's a choice. And when this is a choice, then it's clearly, for me, predictable. But see it like that, you said it also, Sean, in the military, when they walk, very geometric, and they walk side by side, very straight, and it looks impressive when all is going equal, the same, on the same timing, and very tight. But then somebody is falling, and that makes it human. That's made it unpredictable. Then it's get organic.
Yeah, yeah, but it's definitely. I think maybe we didn't discuss that last time, but we have that in another context too, between singular and composed movements. We get back to that in another point in time. We did a whole podcast about it. But I think if you look how, if you put on music and you see a toddler moving on that movement, it's always organic. There's no toddler that starts to move more geometrical when we start to teach things. And there's nothing wrong with that because, like with the military or some dance styles, it's interesting. It's interesting more for me to be unpredictable and make combinations of the two. If you go too far in one, it's equally thing. But to see that distinction, human beings are, of course, natural, and I use that word again. So we move organic if we just let the things flow. So I think there was maybe a time where we want to define art as something that was harder to achieve, and to let militaries move in this way with sometimes more than 100 soldiers. That is, I don't know, you have more experience with that than I. That's a lot of hours of practice. You see it in synchronized swimming. You do sometimes formation groups. That's a lot of hard work to get them just making the same angle, not the right, sorry,
Yes.
the same
In the
angle.
body parts,
Yeah,
Sean, in the
with the
body
body
part,
part.
but even also the voice when they scream.
That's right. Yeah,
That's I'm so impressed.
so impressed.
They are so precise, but they need that discipline for the war, for the enemies, for to yeah to have discipline, and that's incredible. And when you make it organic, then it gets crisscross. It's unorganized, and in the art, that's organic, and that's asymmetry mostly because it's so unorganized. But it works also for the dance, for the art form of dancing. And if you are organized, then it's more geometric, organized,
Yeah,
precise.
yeah,
But even organic can be, how I would say, can be also precise. Because when some worker in his bus all the tools what he have in it, when he organize it he find it, but when you have a person who is unorganized he can also find it. That's because he know exactly where he put it and
yeah,
where he can find it. But for the outside world is the organized more proper, it sells more, you find it mostly faster. Somebody strange people go in the bus and find immediately his tool what he want. And when the bus is unorganized, that person will not find that tool. So that makes it more a challenge. And you can bring that back to dancing also. Unorganized, you need to have in dancing because when everybody would dance organized, the world get very boring. And so you need both, and both, it's like the sun and the rain. They need each other too. If you have only sun, it's nice for a period. When you have only rain, it's nice for a period, but both in balance. And in balance, that you need both. That's
yeah. Need
important.
both. And I think a movement, let's broach that thing, is that they can even exist at the same time.
Yeah,
You could move
absolutely, Sean.
one body part geometrical, more recognizable, and the other one more organic. And that
Yeah,
is choices
absolutely.
that we don't always see. We see often they either do organic or geometric, and then also I'm throwing out a couple of terms because we like to talk about them, and then the way we move in space can also be geometric or organic. That those are already enough variables to think about, and that in
Yeah,
relationship to the music. Oh, that's two variables, geometric and organic. And then with those variables, the movement you make with the body parts you make in the space you make it in connection with the music. Wow. And we just gave you two variables, right?
yeah, yes.
And that,
See it like that. Geometric is very exact. It's like also with space and with time, space time. We have a podcast about that one.
hmm
And in our season one, because when I say to Sean, we are 3 o'clock at the same, we have our podcast or 4 o'clock, then both we will be there. Not exactly. There will be always a little bit time difference, but we will be there. But when you always be 20 minutes late, or even sometimes you forget your appointment, you are unorganized. So then you cannot meet each other. Then it's, yeah, how the day is counting, how you are counting, and if you are really geometric, then you are there and on time. And this is also in the dancing like that. I give some example. I start first with space. We have two pathways, Sean. Sean knows that. And the two pathways, maybe Sean can say that, are,
We have floor pathways and we have air pathways.
yes. And the floor pathways is the pathway what you do mostly with the feet. So you go from A to B in space to a certain point. And the air pathways, your other body parts, stay on that spot mostly and move through the air. And you can do this on two different ways, geometrically or organically. But the combination of it, mostly you go from with the feet in a straight line from A to B in horizontal way, or you could also do it vertical, doesn't matter, or diagonal. From A to B, say 10 meters, you go from A to B 10 meters forward in a straight line. But your body parts, the other one who is not going on that floor, can go in the air organically or geometrically in a straight way. And that's the air pathway. Can you follow it? Maybe Sean can tell it maybe in his words. Then we have some repetition then.
Yeah, what we say is in a lot of dance book actually only talk about the floor pathway, how you move over the floor from one side to the other or towards the wall, towards the center. But what's not always described is that your body doesn't have to follow exactly the same shape or form of the line that you draw. So let me give you an example. From going from point A to B, the most direct way is a straight line. Everyone knows that, right? The shortest line between 2 points is a straight line. So with your feet, you could do that. That would be the floor pathway. But your body could swing left to right, and can go up and down, and that would then create virtually a completely different pathway to arrive at the same point. And so that's an example of an air and a floor pathway. And you could keep everything straight. That sometimes in ballroom dancing, everything goes in one shape, one form, and we move over exactly the same line. And maybe that's a great thing. And I think sometimes it is a great thing. But
Yeah,
sometimes it's interesting to see if you can make a variation in the two pathways at the same time.
yes, the extension in the line of geometric gets in ballet and even also in the ballroom world,
Yeah.
in standard dancing, it gets even more extend, longer and longer, the lines. And it developed through the 100 year, it developed every time. Before they could make not 100 lines in a split in the air, with that one leg on the floor on the point and the other one 180 degrees in the air. That was 100 years not possible ago. And they get even now overstretched, so they don't do any more 180 degrees. No, even they go over that point, and that's really incredible. So that's the evolution of ballet dance. And in the ballroom, they stretch the movement even more and deeper. When they do a throwaway oversway, it goes so deep and so long that it gets more geometric even. And they try now last year what I saw to do some organic movement with the head to give it the curve. So they are trying to round more the body
Yeah.
also. Yeah,
Yeah.
but
Yeah. I'm
that's
laughing a little bit because when we saw this, maybe that started maybe 8 years ago or so on, when they did the head roll. Someone came up with that to give a little bit more an organic feel, which I thought was pretty clever. But then everyone started to try to do that on an exact
To
moment
imitate
in an
that.
exact way. And to my feel, it becomes geometric again,
Yes, yes,
instead of
yes.
letting it spontaneously happen. Um, and then it can actually look a little bit, and I mean that with utmost respect, a little bit funny, out of place. It is. So it's
Mm,
good to think about these things. I'm glad that people are experimenting with it. And then you have also different associations to make it a little bit more complicated, where some people allow a little bit more freedom in the movement than other, or it's more accepted than in other dance styles and associations. But yeah, we like to measure everything, Tom. The word geometric already says it, right? If you
yeah.
want to do a competition, it's easier if you have clear rules, because then you can measure it easier. And easier, take that very loose, because it's not that clear, these rules, but it's a whole different podcast. And therefore, we start to define figures a little bit more. And here it comes again. If you want to define something, it is easier to define geometric things, because it's harder to judge chaotic, right? We like
Mm,
to put a label on it in judging. Is it good? Is it better? Is it worse? And when it's chaotic or a little bit less recognizable, people get a little bit lost. They in their judgment, and I think that's where it's coming from too. But like hip hop, other dance style, modern dance, it's a whole different thing, and it influences each other. I believe that dances evolves, right? And it could evolve more extreme geometric, as you said. And clear, we also see other lines as well. A little
mhm.
bit less than maybe we would expect, than dance forms that are a little bit more free. But in the hip hop also, Ton, they start to define figures. You can almost predict where that's going to lead to with the knowledge that we
Mhm.
have. Because that
Yeah.
freedom and experimenting with the choices that we try to give you in dance, in the jam, that is actually a little bit taken away if you give all these rules. That's a little bit where we sometimes a little bit collide. Yeah.
Mhm, mhm. Yeah. Sean, actually, the geometric
Hmm.
movement has a different muscle tone than the organic movements
Sure.
in the body parts. So you need a different tone to come from A to B in both ways, from geometric and organic. It's totally different. And of course, it's also logical that it is difficult. I assume that geometric needs more attention to get it straight than the organic one. So the organic, I assume that it's more or less muscle tension.
Yeah, to keep a geometric form up, so to speak, or to hold it, yeah,
Mhm.
you need more muscle toners. I think that is true. I would challenge ourselves as dancers, because that's a dynamical part that we will talk about as well, right? The build up of the tension and the let go of the tension in a very fast way results always a little bit more in an organic way. If you do that
Mhm.
gradual, it automatically gets a little bit more into a geometrical way. But I would always challenge us, is that true? Can we make straight lines with very little muscle toners? I would always challenge us, and Ton, I know you do that all the time. Once we say something, we try to experiment. Hmm, that's interesting. But I think you're right. In general, that a lot. You get also, I think, a little bit, it gives me sometimes an uneased feeling if I see that people use a lot of muscle toning to keep up a form.
Mhm.
Makes me feel, it's a choice, but it makes me sometimes feel unease. Uh,
Yes, actually, you try to hold the form then in a certain way,
yeah,
and that's already not so natural in my opinion. So other people they think what they think, but
yeah.
for me it's not natural. Yeah.
While at the same time, we have a whole chapter on that in Gem about keeping the form, letting the form go and go to a new form. That's another interesting way. What in ballroom dancing, if they change the form, they very often change it from a geometrical form to another geometrical form. And even the
Mm.
pathway between them is geometrical. And if you listen and follow Ton's lesson, then it would be interesting to go from a geometrical to an organic form in an either geometrical or organic way. I know that sounds very complex, but if you think about it a little bit, if you all make a little round with your putting your long finger to your thumb, and we make this like a circle, then that feels a little bit more organic. But if you zoom in on the smaller details, you see that there are lines actually. You could do that. You could
Yes.
change the forms of your hand while you move, saying, "Hey, do I do that in a natural way, like this?" And or you do it maybe a little bit more weird, like this.
Yes. But even the
Yeah, I
circle,
did it. I saw it.
even the circle, Sean,
Yeah,
is made by geometric lines
geometrical
of
lines. Have we?
known.
Yeah. Also,
Yes.
one of our first discussions was about that. A little bit how crazy we are. Anyhow, so yeah, if we talk about the form, it's not always the form of the whole body, but it's the form that you can make with your hands and with your arms. And we all have seen that how much work there sometimes is in those shows where they only move the arms and then they make all together these different shapes. But that's very often only when you look at it from an almost two-dimensional point straight from the front. When you look at things from another angle, a geometrical form can look suddenly very organic or the other way around. So it
Yeah.
also has to do with the perspective you look at things.
Yes. Yes, absolutely, Sean. And I give also example of geometric. It's quite bound, and organic has more freedom. And you can see it like a flag. The flag of America or England is square. What when the wind goes through it, it looks organic. This flag, but the flag still is geometric, and this is also how you can compare dancing. That's quite nice to see it like that. We every rule, defined rule, makes it already geometric. Even the LABAN notation, we have LABAN notation and Banish notation. Both of them cannot describe fully the organic. That's impossible.
It's impossible. Yeah.
That's that's impossible. You cannot describe organic movements. But they can describe more body parts than in the ballroom dancing by Alex Moore or Walter Lurt. They do more the footwork in space and in direction, and but the other body parts they couldn't describe it because that was really too much work. And if you fix it, then there will be no grow anymore also.
No.
So if you fix one's geometric, the straight arm lines or legs or fingers, whatever it is from the body part, then it's the freedom is gone. So you bound it and you put it in a box. That's how I see it. So you don't have to be agree in that one, but you miss the freedom also. Yeah.
Yeah. I think you have in your book, The Gems, you have it put it side by side. Again, doesn't mean that one row is a little bit is better than the other row, where geometric
No.
is more mechanic. That's one of the things. It is more predictable. It's very often symmetrical. It's clearer, for a lot of people. That's a very subjective word, by the way. So, and that's good to see them next to each other so you can play with the elements and preferable mix them up. And so that's the function of it. There's not making it.
Yes, you need both the unnatural one, the geometric one, that's actually unnatural, and the organic is a natural one. Both you need, also in our society. Both you
Yeah.
need. It's
Yeah. Here is maybe a nice discussion point because it's after all a podcast. The more we study nature, we also come across a lot of geometrical principles in the nature, right? Fibonacci is the most known example, how Fibonacci numbers are seen in nature. You see them in flowers, we see them in patterns on a butterfly, we see them sometimes in crystals where Fibonacci numbers come back. We can explain that a little bit different. The most extreme way you see a lot of geometry in the, but if you then zoom a little bit out, you look at from a other perspective, then you see the organic way in it, right? And
that's the same with our cities, Sean.
mhm,
Before the cities, we make them very geometric all the
yeah,
ways.
same thing.
Now they discover it's more efficiency. They study the ants, uh, and they make this. They try to make the pathways from the ants. I don't know if you know that, Sean,
No,
and the bridges, and because it's more efficiency in it.
okay,
And they try now in, I think in the Netherlands, in one of the city, Utrecht or another big city, they try to make it more the ants are doing that. Yeah,
interesting.
yeah, I didn't know. Also very interesting.
Yeah, I'll
And
look into it.
yeah,
Yeah,
and what a pity is also, I think, from the geometric, that everybody tried to be so precise as possible. It gets so mechanically that you put the human soul out of it. And the contemporary dance, it's the opposite. They try to break that all and to make it sometimes so organic as possible. Uh, that's also quite funny to see the other extreme. But
yeah,
both they have their beauties.
yeah.
But at the end, it's still, I believe, if you understand both geometric and organic, you have the possibility to break your own pattern and make your own rules from it. And that's you get more options, and then from the options you get more a choice. That's where I'm believing in, and the choice of you is the artist what compose these two together, how you this want these tools, and this make the real art, and not that you follow one or other person that want exactly this line or it wants organic or whatever. I think you as an artist have to understand this too, geometric and organic.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Because you see in the artist boat, right? Famous Dutch painter Mondrian used a lot of geometric forms, but if you look at his early work, that's not there. Then they came in the time of Cubism, and that's a stream in the
Powerhouse.
art. And Bauhaus is very influenced on, I don't know who influenced what, but yeah, you have that where they start to experiment more with straight lines, and it became so simplistic that Mondrian only made rectangles and made that into art with very prime colors. You can see them also back in Gem, by the way. But that's a side note. So yeah, and that is also called art. Is always, has its own rules and studies, and then you see. So neither Ton or I would ever say that you have to do this or that. In fact, study all the characteristics of geometric forms and movements, and study all the. And Ton has a nice list of it, and then try to do them all and then combine them all and find your own combinations. And that in itself would also always be very unique. The combinations
Mhm.
that you can make is something we could never make for you. That would be very unique. And so that's actually what this is about. What I like with studying, one of my early students, he became a teacher at hogeschool, the high, let's say, college in Amsterdam, and later on in, I think he's now in Den Bosch in the Hogeschool Fontis, and he teaches improv dancing, where people just meet each other and they just move. We sometimes talk to each other, and what I said to him is that what strikes me is it, and I explained him the words organic and geometric, is that your improv is always organic. No, but that is what it has to be. I said, that's, I said, wow, that is very interesting what you say there. So improv is always organic. Yes, otherwise it would not be natural. I said, whoa, another subjective word in this context. And then he's an intelligent dancer, started to actually get interest. Maybe we invite him once for an interview. And that would be
Oh
good.
yes, that
That
would
would
be
be good.
very
Yeah.
interesting, Sean.
And it's not that he
Yeah.
closed himself up. He suddenly thought, of course, yeah, improv could all be geometric. Let Ton and me doing improv on only geometric with that one little assignment could be all improvisation. um, See, that's
Hmm.
was.
Yeah.
Don't you think that's interesting, Ton? I thought it was interesting. Oh, those people were so far off on the organic side that they actually start to believe that the geometric side is wrong.
Yes. But I believe that's a little bit offside of it. But improvise, it's also something what already exists in your being. Already, it's there.
Yeah,
And then when you maybe by accident
yeah,
something happened and you don't then know what happened, and that gives the freedom. This is the freedom of organic. And of course, you can have straight lines in it because you said it already before, Sean. It cannot be only organic.
yeah,
So there will be also geometric lines in it because they learn it already before. So they take this baggage, uh, this backpack, they take it already to the floor. So it exists already in their system. Only they compose them differently from freedom, organic.
yeah,
So you
yeah.
need both
Nice.
again.
Yeah, well said, Tom. I like that. I wanna listen back to that spot. That was good. But so you see it if you talk to both sides of the equation, maybe more classical schools, and but typically artistic dancers they always want to learn. They are always open to these things. They want to
Yeah,
experiment. It
yeah.
That's the beauty of it.
Yes, that's a beauty. And Sean, I would give advice to our listeners.
Hmm.
Look more to the art of, how we say, from our buildings, the architect. What was the idea around with the lines? Is it more straight lines, curved lines, etc.? Yeah.
Yeah. All right, Tom. Maybe you can. Last time you did that, and we're getting very slow but sure. Oh no, actually, it go fast. We're getting to the end of the podcast. But I like what you did, where you actually mentioned the two next to each other in comparison, geometric. Can you do that again? I like that.
Yes, of course I can do that. The geometric, it's more placed. And the other one, the organic, it exists more, it will happen. It has also more freedom. We said already organic. And the other one is more bound. The geometric is mostly regular and the organic is unregular. The geometric has more balance. The organic has more unbalance. And the geometric, it's more defined. And yeah, and the organic, it's more free. So without the rules. And geometric, it's absolute. And organic, it's relative. It's more fixed, the geometric, and the organic, it's more free. It's more recognizable, the geometric, and for the organic, you have to do some effort for it. And it's not so quick recognizable, also. It's unpredictable, the organic, and the geometric, it's more predictable. And of course, last and final, no, not final one. It's the geometric is direct, but it's also very mechanically.
Yeah,
And when you look to the organic, it's indirect and it's also natural more
feels more
and
natural.
not so predictable. So if you want to listen again to it, I would take only the last part to understand what the difference is between A and B, between geometric and organic. But one thing what was started with in the architect world, look to it when you walk around. If you want to discover geometric or organic, look to the paintings, organic or our writing. When we write, it's very geometric how we learn the letters. And but even that we try to make it more organic with curves, and but still it's a geometric way because it has rules. And yeah, that's listen a few times back the last one. I do this also always to remember it. But look also to the photography, how they use it there in the design world. It's quite important. And everything from geometric and organic, you can transform it into the dance.
Yeah,
It's not that hard once you start with it. But when you not start with it, it can be very challenging in the beginning. But once you work with it, then you will discover more and more. And you discover also how you are yourself, what you use more. You are more a geometric way with the head, or you are more from the heart, more organic. And both you need. When you have a partnership and one of the partners is more with the head and the other one is more with the heart, that's really a beautiful, how we say, elkaar aan.
yeah, complementary.
It complement each other.
Complementary.
So it's not necessary to both of the dancers need to be with the head or both with the heart.
Not
It's
always.
nice too. But the combination is also very nice. So
I think so. Even our podcast is a little bit like that. I'm a little bit more geometrical, a little bit more structured. And Tom is a little
yeah,
bit more organic. But
organic.
let me be a little bit disorganized because when you were talking about writing, I had this idea, Tom, and this is why it's a podcast, and that's why it's sometimes so fun because even we don't know what it is. But if we were talking about pathway and floor pathway and air pathway, so do you see that if you write on lines, the line is the floor pathway, could be a straight line, and if you make cursive letters on top of it, then that's the air
Yeah,
pathway.
yeah, yeah, Sean.
Isn't that beautiful? I thought it was beautiful.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that is. Uh, I was not aware of it,
yeah,
but now you mention it, yeah, I can see it.
you
Yeah,
can see it.
it's
And if
really
you
note.
write without lines, then your floor pathway is also organic. And I
Yeah,
was
and
thinking about
in the
that.
music the same,
Same
Sean,
thing.
with the note. With
Same thing. So
yeah,
here we came. By talking and working through it, guys, that's what we want to show you. It's not only that we talk, but we also walk our talk. We practice and then we discover new things. And then we want
yes,
to write and
absolutely.
then we take notes for the next version of Gem. you
Yes,
know
yes,
so that's how it is. Just don't only read the words, but if Ton says mechanical or predictable or less predictable, just take a movement and see if you can figure out what that means and why you can use both. And I think you should use both, to be honest, but that's also a choice again. So that's what we want to say. We always say explore and then learn it and then manipulate it again. And that
yes,
becomes needs to become an attitude of you explore it first and then
yes. I
yeah,
would
make
say
it
it
your
more
own.
like that, Sean.
Hmm.
Explore it,
Make it,
make it fixed,
yeah, make it
but
your
break
own.
it then and break it then and make it more free
Yeah,
and manipulate it again. But that's what we said from the impro dance. The
yeah,
impro, it's exploring, and then after maybe when you like it, you can fix it,
yeah, yeah,
and then you can break it again.
and then you should break it
Manipulate.
again. and let it all happen all over again. That
It's a
would not
circle.
be. That's actually the first point where we found each other. When I said to you, I don't like the word muscle memory. That's when
Yes,
we
yes,
started. Whole different discussion. We'll have a whole podcast about muscle
yeah.
memory, muscle manipulation, and muscle exploration, and not in that order. So we have that in season one. So hope you guys listen back to our podcast episodes. I'm rounding up already because we're hitting the hour. Is there a last thing you want to say, Ton?
When you walk outside on the street, look
Hmm.
around you. Look in the fields. Look to the buildings. Look what are the lines, and try to look to something where you never looked before. And hopefully, you will discover this too geometric and organic.
I like that. That's a good closing comment of our podcast about straight lines and curves, or in other words, geometric and organic movements. And it's more than movements because it's also in music, etc. All right, Tom, thank
Yes,
you so much. It was a pleasure as always. I am already curious to our next episode. I think
me too.
season two is well on its way. See what the rest of the season brings us. With that, I already say bye bye, and of course,
Goodbye.
I need to tell everyone where you can find us. I forgot.
Yes, goodbye, listeners. Thank you for listening.
Thank you for listening. Is it straight? Is straight straight and curved curved, geometric and organic dancing. I'll start the music while Ton is already saying goodbye to us. And this is where you can find us. You can find us on Spotify, Dance Dash Jams, Apple Dance Dash Jams, YouTube at Ton Greten /podcast, website www.jam.dance/podcast. And last but not least, we have our own Facebook group, com and then /groups, the Dance Jams. All right, Ton, with that, we say bye bye.
Goodbye.